Mark R. Morris Jr. And I just felt like going on a little rant today. Driving around in my wife's car and realized that I hadn't paid the license plate, the tag, taxes yet. So I'm actually an outlaw at the moment. And that just made me think back to some things that I've been thinking about for a while. And that's how easy it is to become an outlaw in the United States of America these days. We have too many damn laws. In fact, this law right here in the state of Oklahoma and Oklahoma City, if I were to be stopped for it, I would be ticketed, of course. If my tag were far enough out of date, they could impound my vehicle, collect a bunch of fees that way, take all of my money to drive on streets that I already paid for, protected by police that I already pay for, and a court system that I already pay for. And the problem that I have is this: if I got stopped and they sent me that fine and then the court date slipped my mind, I could be one day past paying that and I would be in contempt of court. And if my contempt stayed on the books long enough, I think it's 60 days in Oklahoma, they would issue a bench warrant and they could put me in jail for having not paid my license plate. And it seems that this is the only option we have for making people compliant in our society. Put them in a cage. That's it. Everything you do here, literally, I have had cuffs slapped on me one time because I did not pay a fine for a dog. And the problem with the fine was this: my wife had a 4-pound Morkie. That's a Maltese Yorkie mix, real vicious little animal, 4 pounds. This 280-pound animal control officer was on my porch, getting in my face because a woman claimed that my dog, who had been on a chain all day, had gone 3 blocks down in the neighborhood, and I had to put my dog on a chain because there were so many strays, and she kept hopping the fence to go hang out with them. She'd gone down 3 blocks in the neighborhood and bit a kid, and so they were taking my dog to impound. Well, so then he writes me a fine for this little dog, and the reason he wrote the fine: one of my kids opened the storm door of our house, and the dog ran out onto my front porch while that officer was standing there. And because the dog didn't have a leash on it, in the 2 seconds it took me to pick her up off of the porch, he gave me a $400 fine, which I refused to pay. And it's gotten to the point where anything really can land you behind bars. And in my situation, I have friends and family, I have resources, I can pay my way out of these things if they're not too big. But I think about some of my neighbors, because I live in a pretty depressed area, and I know that if they were to end up in that same situation, it's going to end up with them going to jail, and then ending up with fines, and then ending up with more jail time because they can't pay the fines, until they finally end up being a criminal, a career criminal, based on the fact that some stupid thing happened and they just couldn't take care of it in time. And I wonder if this is really the kind of liberty that the Founding Fathers had in mind. And I don't think it is. And even though I know they were a mixed bag and their motives, were all over the map, it just seems to me that when we say the land of the free and the home of the brave, I don't even think we know what that means anymore. And I'm pretty disgusted with us. So anyway, I'm just driving around today being an outlaw, and I'll probably get the tag taken care of either later today or Monday if I have time. I hope I don't get stopped between now and then. It'll cost me a lot more. But I just don't care. You know why I don't care? Because I know what they spend the money on. I know how it gets handled. I know the people here in Oklahoma who work for the state and the laws that they pass here. There's no justice. There's no real sense of obligation. And the thing of it is, they can hold us accountable to an arbitrary schedule that they determined. You have to pay your fine by this date. You have to show up on this day. But if the state of Oklahoma, if I have a problem with them on my taxes or some issue with my property, I can't set a deadline on them. There's no accountability that works in the opposite direction. I don't have the ability to charge them with a crime or put them in prison because they're not a human. They're not a person. And so that's the problem when we have this separation. People always talked about the separation between church and state, but I feel like we've created a separation, a wall of separation between the state and the people. to where we no longer have any control. In fact, right here in Oklahoma, a group just passed a petition around and got more than 15% more signatures than they needed to get medical marijuana on our ballot this fall. And our state attorney general is pulling all kinds of stunts to make sure that the will of the people does not happen in this case. That will never make it onto our ballot as long as he's in office. And I'm just fed up, you know? I think maybe it's time for good men to become outlaws. Maybe it's time for us to begin to thumb our nose, to abdicate away from government and towards self-rule. Peacefully, non-aggressively, but how many of us have to just ignore them before it finally starts to lose its power? Because here's the thing. The way political power works is this. One man only has the power of one man. One man only equals me, unless he gets another man to agree with him. Unless he gets another man to agree with him and uphold his view of how things should be. And so what you end up with is this kind of tyranny where everyone thinks that democracy is a great system. The problem is there's no way to check out of it. There's no way to abstain. There's no way for me to stop sending my money to Washington so they can blow shit up and kill people that I have no gripe against. So I guess I'll just be an outlaw for a little while longer. Not that that's going to change anything, but it changes something in me. It changes me. It changes my heart. It changes how I feel. It changes the fact that I know that I'm not doing anything wrong by driving without that license plate being paid. I haven't harmed anyone. There's no crime committed, but yet I could go to prison for it. If it goes long enough, if I let it go, that's what will end up happening to me. Is that the society that we really want to live in? I don't.